two, one.
We're now on the third round. Issa, you have the panel. Issa, let me know when to begin.
Okay, you can begin. So, like I said, as we saw in the flood stories, that's out of the way with the literally trying to put that into history. But let's talk about the chromosomes, right? That completely debunks the Adam and Eve story. Um, every human has at least one X chromosome, which I like to call the master blueprint of life because women have two X chromosomes. Men only have one X and one smaller Y chromosome. These X and chromosomes carry thousands of critical survival genes. The Y chromosomes is tinier and carry very few genes, mostly related to the male sex traits. So, like, according to like just how our chromosomes work, the true foundation of human life falls within women and the feminine blueprint. So Adam, and I get it, like it says how Adam came first and this, that, and the third, but like keep reiterating, these stories are sacred stories about connection, not about like a biblical blueprint about like genealogy. The Hebrew text speaks of, coming from the side, not even the rib, right? And that is to symbolize, shared partnership between two people, not necessarily who came first. It doesn't really matter when it comes to the sacred origin of things. Let's talk about the mitochondria. Inside every human cell are mitochondria, which are the power plants of the or the fuel of life. Mitochondria are inherited only through the mother. When sperm and the egg meet, the father's mitochondria are destroyed. Life flows forward through the mother's line of that mitochondria. As Dr. Douglas Wallace, the pioneer of mitochondrial genetics, explains, all of the mitochondrial DNA in every person on Earth can be traced back to one single woman who lived about 150,000 years ago, commonly called mitochondrial Eve. And to be clear, mitochondria Eve does not mean Eve from the Bible. And mitochondria Eve isn't even the first human woman. She's simply just the most recent common ancestor. There were plenty other people walking around at this time. So, in nature, many species, lizards, sharks, insects, can reproduce without males through parthenogenesis. Humans don't reproduce this way today, but clues remain inside of our bodies. One called the teratomas, rare cysts that can grow hair, teeth, primitive bones inside of a woman's body. Scientists believe teratomas form when an egg cell tries to start developing into a body without being fertilized. A biologist, Dr. Arti Prasad, discussed in her book Like a Virgin, parthenogenesis exists across species, and the an ancient biological memory hints that the female body once held and still holds the complete creative blueprint to start life. So, just to reiterate, men can't do this. Men contribute DNA but lack mitochondria, lack the organelles, lack the environment, the womb, needed to create life and sustain life. So, in all reality, life cannot be had without the female, whatever species you're thinking of, right? So, people might ask if evolution isn't real, why don't we see it today, right? But we do. People develop lactose intolerance. People develop disease resistance. The way the brain has changed in the past 10,000 years, evolution just isn't a magic trick. Like I feel like people want things to just snap their fingers and you'll be able to see it. No, you got to look over thousands of years to see the true evolution. Embryology in the womb, all embryos, including humans, birds, reptiles, etc., all go through the almost identical stages. And being that I'm pressed for time, I'm going to show my slides at the end. But yeah, we develop tails, gill-like slits, and eye spots all together. These common features reveal a shared evolutionary ancestry, not a creation from dirt or a single afternoon. Um, so according to the Adam and Eve story, it's not a biological claim. It's a sacred mirror reflecting struggles of humanity. Long before Genesis was written, ancient people told stories about sacred gardens, forbidden knowledge, and high cost of awakening. In the Sumerian tradition, goddess Inanna had a hepulu tree, a
Two
sacred tree
minutes.
that she tried to tied to life and transformation, just as the tree of life stood in the Garden of Eden. In another myth, Anana journeyed to the underworld with her brother Utu, where they ate the sacred fruit together from the tree of good and evil, a search for divine wisdom at the cost of innocence, just like Adam and Eve. The story of Enki and Ninhursag tells the story of a god who eats a sacred plant without permission. In punishment, the goddess Ninhursag curses him and turns him from his wounded body creates a woman of the rib named Ninti, lady of the rib or lady of life. These ancient myths ask the same questions Genesis asks. Why are we exiled from paradise? Why must the wisdom come with pain? Why does knowledge change us forever? Genesis didn't invent these questions. Like they just reinterpreted them for their own need. Adam and Eve are not historical figures. They are all of us wanting like to just disobedient, courageous, just human people, like wanting to know sacred knowledge and the cost of those things. And I'm pretty sure everybody could agree with that story, with or without it being a real story that has a historical context. And I land.
GD Capone, you're up.
All right, give me a second.
Let me know when
It's
to start
for
the clock.
us. Give me 1 second. Okay, you can start. So, what I was showing the creation and how the Bible makes the claim that the supreme intelligence or God created everything, the Most High. So right here, next I'm gonna show you the fine tuning, and I probably didn't mention this before, but I'm showing creation on the macro and the micro level. The micro and the macro level, right? So, and I'm gonna show you the fine tuning of the universe and how the universe is specifically designed for life on Earth. So here we go. This is Michio Kaku, right? And he's a physicist, and he says it's shocking to find how many of the familiar constants of the universe lies within a narrow band that makes life possible. If a single one of these accidents were altered, the stars would never form, the universe would fly apart, DNA would not exist, life as we know it would be impossible. The earth would flip over or freeze, and so on. Meaning life wouldn't exist. If anything is changed, if any other fine tuning the measurements of the universe, we wouldn't have life as we know it. Let's go to the next one. Hold on. All right. So right here, you see this is gibberish, right? You can't read this. You can't. There's no information right here, right? So unless what? There's some information, right? There's some information. We see word, we see letters, but we can't make this out. It's not in a language. So this is the same amount of characters that's in Genesis 1 and 1 scrambled. And it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. Once again, a scientific phenomenon, right? So now I had to unscramble these so y'all will be able to see it and read it and understand it, right? Let's go on. Okay, levels of information. So the first one, when it was scrambled up, that's statistics. That's called statistics. It's 5 levels of information. And then you got, after that, you have cosetics. This is like during the translations of it or decoding. Then you have the semantics and the problematics, right? That's making it out to mean to be able to read. Then you have aprobetics, which is the highest level of information, meaning you design the information, you code it, you decode it, and design it for other people to be able to read and understand and to get something from it. This is what our DNA is designed of. Let's go on. So here's the DNA, which is the longest molecule in the human body. It consists of the proteins, the A, C, T, and G, and these make different combinations which make up yourself, right? So these have genetic coding information for your body to function. Let's move on. And this is from the U.S. National Library of Medicine. So let's see. Oh, hold on. Okay, let's go. What the Bible says. Once again, I know y'all hate it, but hey, I love it. It says, for Isaiah 45:18 says, "For thus says the Lord that created the heavens, God Himself that formed the earth and made it and established it and created it. He created it not in vain. He formed it to be inhabited," which I showed in my first round. I am the Lord, and there is none else. Let's go on. More. By the word of the Lord were the heavens made, and the host of them by the breath of his mouth. That was Psalms 30. My bad, let me get that. That was Psalms 33:6. Let's go on. The Lord said, "Thus says the Lord, and thy Redeemer. He formed thee in the womb." I'm going to make a point of that. And I am the Lord that maketh all things and stretcheth forth the heavens, that spreadeth abroad, the earth by myself. So it says, I am the Lord, the Redeemer that formed thee in the womb. That's what your DNA is doing. That's what the proteins in the DNA is doing. They're literally forming you once we're being birthed into this earth, being conceived. So the DNA is literally forming you, giving you information on how to sustain life. Let's go on. So y'all want the references? Here we go. Warner Grit, he wrote a book called "Why, as a Scientist, I Believe in the Bible." So he's an atheist turned scientist. So let's go to his quote. He say, "We then examine a particular coding system in DNA and discover
2
that the
minutes.
UI, or the universal information, is conveyed within the genes. Using this DNA evidence and scientific laws governing the universal information as premise, I am able to develop sound, logical deductions. This leads us to the following conclusion. The God of the Bible exists, and he is responsible for originating and embedding universal information into biological life." Once again, this is an atheist. This is a scientist who was an atheist turned a believer. And another one of his quotes, he say, there is no known law of nature, no known process, and no known sequence of events which can cause information to originate by itself in matter. Which what I was just showing you when I scrambled those words up, I had to that it couldn't just evolve into, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. No, I had to unscramble that, decode it, unscramble it, and make it mean something, put it in a language where you can understand. Let's move on. Okay, so who is the suspect? Who did all this? It says, well, it only points to a few things, right? And it says the creator is he's what? Eternal to the universe, non-special, atemporal, and non-material, uncaused, powerful enough to create everything that we see in this universe, specifically, purposely enough to produce a universe and fine-tune for life. The supreme, intelligent, and communicative. This is what we call God, everybody. The fine-tuning of the universe. So this is showing the atom and how it's fine-tuned by the gravitational force in the solar system, how that's fine-tuned by the weak force of the. Can I get an
Time.
extra minute? Can I get an extra minute to finish up?
Issa,
I'm cool with that.
there you go.
Yeah.
Hold
Yeah.
on.
So
Let me put you on the timer. There you go.
okay. Okay. So how the well, man, the solar system, how that's fine tuned by the weak force of by the weak force which governs the radiation decay, and how that's fine tuned by the strong force which bind the nucleus into the atom. Right. So this is the fine tuning. This is fundamental fine tuning. Now let's go to the fine tuning of the universe. So this is some physical constants, right? Some physical constants. and it shows these all has a number. You see that and I showed you if you move any one of these consonants, we won't have life as it is, showing that the universe is fine-tuned because all these elements is found within the universe. You have the speed of light, the Planck constant, the gravitational constant, mass, the mass of electron, proton, neutron, the atomic mass of a unit, all these different things, right? Let's go to some
Time.
of the elements. Ah, okay. I was just showing the fine tune it.
We're going on the fourth
Okay,
round.
yeah,
Issa,
give me a second so I can share my screen.
let me know when to start.
You can
Quick,
start.
excuse me, really quick for clarification. This is round 4, right?
Oh,
Beginning of
sorry.
round 4?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you give me a few minutes or a minute to get my notes together here for round 4?
Sure.
I just need like 30 seconds.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Ready, Issa?
Yes, I'm ready. So, I feel like we have the biggest problem of what evolution is. So evolution is a couple of different things. It's not just one thing. Um, Evolution consists of mutation, natural selection, genetic drift, gene flow, adaptation, speciation. Mutation, random changes in DNA, natural selection, survival of the fittest, genetic drift, random shifts across time, gene flow, the mixing of genes between populations, adaptations, the trait that helps you survive, and speciation, when when one kind of animal slowly changes into two or more new species. Evolution isn't like random chaos. It's literally the universe learning and adapting. Um, how do we know we're animals, mammals, and primates, right? We are animals because we breathe, we move, we sense, and respond to the world, sharing muscles, nerves, hearts, and minds with millions of other species. We are mammals because we are warm blooded. We grow hair and we nourish our young with milk. We are primates because we have grasping hands, flat fingernails, forward facing eyes, flexible shoulders, and brains large enough to build. So I think a lot of the times when people hear primates, they think of apes, even though apes are primates, but those two words are not interchangeable. The same goes for animals and mammals. Like we are all a part of this system. The evolution of humans was driven largely by our intelligence, by how we learn, adapted, and passed survival forward. Much of much of that legacy lives in our DNA, carried from the ancient beings we came before us. The brainstem and the cerebellum, responsible for instinct, motor control, and basics of survival, first evolved in fish about 500 million years ago. As life crawled out the water, the amphibians helped shape the midbrain and the hindbrain, giving us a better limb control, balance, and shaper visual and auditory reflexes. We inherited the ability to coordinate our movements and navigate the world on land. Around 200 million years ago, early mammals developed the limbic system, a brain region responsible for emotions, memory, social bonding. Finally, about 60 million years ago, the neocortex began to expand dramatically in primates. This supports the abstract thinking, planning, imagination, and language, and it reaches its greatest complexity in apes, dolphins, and humans today. Your brain is a gift, right? It's stacked with a bunch of other things from other species that came before us, right? So, how do we know that evolution is real? And this is just going by the things that we could go by in the universe. And we could talk about what GDN and the Big Bang because I wasn't planning on talking about it. So, I'm thank you, brother, for bringing it up. So around 13.8 billion years ago, everything, time, space, energy exploded, right? And heavier elements, carbon, oxygen, iron, was forged. I'm sorry. At first, it was only hydrogen and helium, and then and in the first stars, heavier elements started to become carbon, oxygen, iron was forged, right? And when those stars exploded, the supernova, as supernovas, these elements scattered across the universe. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the oxygen you breathe are all born from that big bang. So how can you feel as if you're separated from it, right? And I understand what my brother is trying to say with the whole Big Bang, but and what he deciphered from those words. But at the end of the day, the Bible says what the Bible says, the Torah says what the Torah says. If you're adding things to it to include the known universe that we just figured out about a couple of years ago, then I feel like you're being disingenuous to the debate. But I'm going to keep on going. Um, Around 4.5 billion years ago, Earth formed from the debris exploded from the stars. This planet was violent. It was hit by asteroids, steaming oceans, struck by lightning. But we also see the first simple organic molecules. The basically the ingredients, right, of life. These amino acids that um, link to all the proteins, the first living cells, right? The amino acids grow into RNA, DNA. From there, then RNA, DNA evolves. Um, a stronger, more stable library for our memories to put into how we're learning and passing on to our children. And every cell in your body today is reading this from this same manual. And let me prove that for you again. Inside the womb, right? I'm sorry, y'all. Inside the womb, you go through these stages. I'm sorry. You go through these stages. And every stage that you go through has an evolutionary journey. Your reproductive system comes from the single cell organisms like bacteria, and that's from the beginning. The baby starts as one cell and it can copy itself. And the nervous system from the jellyfish and flatworms, and week
So
3 to
sorry,
4.
51 seconds.
Okay, week 3 to 4, tiny nerve tubes form for the baby's brain. Digestive systems in the fourth week comes from the worms. Circulatory system from early fish. I'm saying all of this to say this. The way your baby develops in your womb directly follows what scientists says about evolution and how it is marked through time. So again, to keep on saying that these things are not connected, like nobody is saying that. I'm just saying that you're connected to the wrong thing. And I land.
Um, to those on the comments, be respectful or get muted. Note that the guests are the opponents are respecting each other. Take put a page from their book and do the same even in the comments. Stop being so nasty and rude again or get muted. Capone,
What round is this?
this is the fourth round.
Fourth round. All right, cool. So I have to get to all this. Give me 1 second. Okay. Okay. So
Let
I
me know when
showed
to
the
start.
Okay, you can start. So I showed the fine tuning of the universe. I showed you the some of the DNA, right? So let's go into the scientists. So this is from a book from Michio Kaku, who is a physicist, and this title Einstein Dream. It says, first I came across the challenging this dream posed as a child of eight. One day, the newspaper announced that a great scientist had just died. There was an unforgettable picture in the paper. It was an image on his desk with an open notebook. The caption announced that the greatest scientists of our time could not finish the work that he started. I was fascinated. What could possibly be so hard that even Einstein could not solve it? Could not solve it. Say that book contained his unfinished theory of everything, what Einstein called the unified field theory. He wanted the equation, perhaps no more than 1 inch long, that would allow him to, in his words, read the mind of God. So Einstein was trying to find out the mysteries of God. He was trying to figure this out, and it's gonna come to play, right? So this is more in the book. So it says, give me 1 second. Uh 1 second. 1 second. Pause my time. What happened? Okay, I'm back. It say, if we had a microscope powerful enough, we could see that the electrons, the quark, and the neutrinos, and etc. are nothing but vibrations on a minuscule loop resembling rubber bands. I'm gonna drop down. I'm gonna drop down. What this means that all the laws of physics can be reduced to the harmonies of the strings. Of strings. Chemistry is the melody one can play on them. The universe is a symphony, and the mind of God, which Einstein eloquently wrote about, is a cosmic music resonating throughout space and time. So this is from the book The God Equation by Michio Kaku. I quoted him earlier. This so this is Job 38. I know y'all tired of the Bible, but I just got to keep bringing it out. It says, this showing that God measured everything, and he did it. He says, where was thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare if thou hast understanding. Who has laid the measures thereof? And if thou knowest, or who can stretch the line upon it? And whereupon are the foundations fastened? And who laid the cornerstone thereof? So this is saying that God laid the cornerstones and measured everything, which we find in the science, which I showed you in the physical constants, that everything is measured and numbered. This is Second Esdras 4:36, and it says, an archangel Uriel gave them answer and said, even when the number of the seas is filled in you, for he has weighted the world in balance by the measure, and by measure he has measured the times, and by number he has numbered the times, and he doeth not move or stir them until he said the measure is fulfilled. So this is right here. This is Ezra's quoting, saying that God measured everything. And I just showed you in Job where he say he stretched the line upon it. Let's see what the scientists say. He say, this is from Fred Hoyle. This is a quote from him. He says, imagine 1,050 blind person each with a scrambled Rubik's cube, and try to conceive of the chance of all them, and try to conceive of the chance of all them simultaneously arriving at the solved form. You then have the chance arriving by random shuffling of just one of the many bipolars of which life depends. The notion of that not only the bipolars, but the operating program of the living cell could be arrived at by chance in a primordial organic soup here on the earth is evidently nonsense in the highest order. That's what evolutions tell you. He said this is nonsense in the highest order. And here go another quote from Fred Hoyle. Once we see, however, that the probability of life originating at random is so utterly minuscule as to make it absurd, it becomes sensible to think that the favorable properties of physics
2
on
minutes.
which life depends are in every respect deliberate. It is therefore almost inevitable for our own measure of intelligence must reflect a higher intelligence, even to the limit of God. And he's an atheist. More quotes. More quotes. This is from Paul Daves. He says, there is for me powerful evidence that there is something going on behind it all. It seems as though somebody has fine-tuned nature numbers to make the universe. The impression of a design is overwhelming. Stephen Hawking is one of the smartest men in the world, right? He said the remarkable fact is that the values of these numbers, talking about the constants of the universe, the physical constants, the values of these numbers seem to have been finely adjusted to make possible the development of life. So they all saying something is doing this. This is not by chance. Right? Let's see what Romans 1 and 20 says. It says, for the visible things of him from the creation of the world is clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead. So they are without excuse, because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were they thankful, but it became vain in their imagination. And their foolish hearts was darkened, and professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. So right here is telling people to become scientists, but not to reject God. And a lot of scientists took this notion and started to study God, because he just told you from the things that are made, you can understand the invisible. So this is a list of believers who was the founders of science. So some of these that I recognize is Isaac Newton, Kepler,
Time.
Mendel. Can I get an extra minute? Can you add the extra minute? Gregor
Issa.
Mendel,
Yeah, that's cool.
Francis Bacon, Galileo, Copernicus, and we got Charles Darwin down here, right? So let's go to the next one. This is Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin. He made a quote in his books, Origin of Species, and he says, as my conclusion has lately been much misrepresented, and it has been stated that I attribute the modifications of species exclusively to natural selection. I may be permitted to remark that the first edition of this work is subsequently. I place a most conspicuous position, namely at the close of the introduction and following words. I'm convinced that natural selection has been the main, but not the exclusive mean of modification. This has been to no avail. Great is the power of steady representation, but the history of science shows that the fortunate is he who caused others to investigate farther. So this is Charles Darwin admitting that he put too much stock into natural selection alone. Mind you, they didn't discover DNA yet. And he got his stuff from Hubert Spencer, which I quote earlier. He wrote the book, The
Time.
Principles, where he talked about the 5 principles of scientific phenomenon. Okay, let me come down.
Can I use my
So,
rebuttal time? Oh, sorry.
Tanya is asking, can the judges give feedback towards the
Yeah.
end of?
No, I was just asking, are we able to give feedback on these 2 rounds just to prepare you guys for your final round?
Yeah, we could do that. Also, are we going into the final round now? I'm first in the final round, right?
We're on the 5th round. Yeah,
Okay, so yeah, we could do that.
Can I ask a
Okay.
question real quick?
go ahead.
Capone has yet to do his rebuttal, right?
Right, he hasn't had any rebuttals.
Okay.
He has 2 rebuttals. Issa's on her second rebuttal now.
Yeah, I want to
So
waive
she's
my
gonna.
feedback, and I would I think if we reread the rules, um, just to make sure that we all have a clear understanding of the rules.
So judges will judges will judge on a scale from 1 to 10 on the following: directly address the topic, clarity of position, persuasiveness of the argument, presentation or evidence and references, identification of opposing arguments. Judges will be able to speak to what they heard after the second and final round. Please, yeah.
Well, I mean, like the full thing, like with the rebuttals, just so everybody have a clear understanding of um
Well, Issa
for both
had
parties.
her rebuttal on on the first round. She's only had one. They both have two rebuttals. GD hasn't taken any of his. Issa is on getting ready to have her second rebuttal. We clear, Jabril?
Oh yeah. That's why I said I didn't want to give no feedback. I just want to make sure that we just have
Okay.
everybody has a clear understanding. That's all.
Yeah, and GD, you understand you have two rebuttals left, and you can take them at any point, right?
Con.
Okay. So Issa is gonna start her rebuttal,
Wait, no,
and
no,
we're
no.
on.
The judges is gonna say what they wanted to say real quick
Oh, okay.
before
Shoot.
the final round. So whoever wants to go first can just start.
So I was gonna say,
So,
you can. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I thought that's what I well that's what I did. I apologize to the other judges. That's what I was basically saying about.
I'm actually
so,
fine.
uh,
Go ahead, brother.
so on round three, as far as IssaKween, I think she had pretty strong arguments, and she, basically was rejecting the historicity of Adam and Eve, which is perfectly aligned with the topic. She had good integrations of biblical and scientific sources. Uh, she clearly anticipated and refuted, I guess, the mainstream creation narrative. I would say one area that I noticed you could improve on there was your argument relied heavily on Parthenogenesis, which I think might be a little niche. Uh, I think something more, just more consensus could have strengthened the argument there. For Capone, I think he did good on his argument, like where he was focusing his argument, especially on chaos theory and the fine tuning of the universe. Uh, I like that how he linked purposeful design to the complexity of DNA. Uh, I think he did a good job at bringing a lot of different scientific principles and kind of. I won't lie, I was a little lost midway through, but I think he wrapped them up pretty good at the end. Um, I would say that while he did mention kind of some opposing viewpoints, I don't think he's directly addressing them. So that could be something to improve on into the next round. I, I, I guess that's kind of my big feedback on that. I do. I I know IssaKween said something too about the universe learning, which I don't want to like bias anything, but I think that implies intelligence. So that would be something I would like to see differentiated. But I do like the fact that she did give a clear definition of evolution, from a denotative point. Uh, that way it brought more clarity to our argument. Um, one other thing too, and I guess this is kind of along the lines with the Parthenogenesis comment. I know Capone briefly touched on string theory and uh, I guess the harmony in it. I think that could also kind of be like a little niche. Um, but I think some of the other evidence, especially um, how early scientific thinkers believed in creation, was also a good point. Let me say that again. I'm sorry. Early European scientific thinkers.
Hmm. Okay, so for me, I'm gonna go back to round three. I'll start with Capone. Capone stated that he would debate both the macro and micro levels, but in my opinion, I think he failed to prove specific elaboration, which again kind of resulted in redundancy. His analogy of unscrambling the words was not clearly connected to his argument or his main argument, though he did attempt to use DNA as evidence for divine creation. I don't think he presented a strong or a detailed scientific support for the claim that God created the world. However, he did make a good use of Werner Get quotes, which emphasized the necessity of an intelligent source for biological information. In that round, I think both debaters made effective use of references in their round, which I think definitely strengthened their academic quality of the argument. In round 4, oh, sorry. And I really enjoyed how she effectively utilized genetics, specifically the difference between the male and female chromosomes, to argue the Adam and Eve narrative, and which was again rather symbolic than literal. She referenced scientific concepts like the mitochondrial Eve, explaining that while all humans trace back their mitochondrial DNA back to a single woman, the Y chromosome DNA back to a single man, these individuals did not live in the same time with Adam and Eve. So I did like that comparison. She also used her to support her claim, the book Like a Virgin. I think so. That was that. Fourth round, I think that Issa presented a strong evidence supported evolution, explaining how the elements formed in supernova and how they're connected to the elements found in the human blood. I thought that was pretty brilliant, and how the cells in the body are interrelated. I think she effectively linked the Big Bang Theory to the origins of matter and the timeline of Earth's formation, referencing events from 4.5 billion years ago. And although evolution, my main concern is that evolution is a theory. But it is, I think she did a great job, overwhelmingly supported by genetics, fossils, biological evidence. But again, scientific theories are always open to new evidence and refinement. I think with Capone's this last debate, he was more or less reading excerpts from the books that he assigned to support his his point. I do like that he did integrate a variety of different quotes, discussions, scientists, and also using atheists to support the idea of a God. But I do think it lacked deeper understanding. Like, I think he lacked the deeper understanding in the analysis of the material that he was presenting. I was hoping for more of an explanation and clear connections between the quotes and his main argument. I'm not sure if he was kind of rushing to get through each, but I think if he can use, well, I'm not going to tell him what he could do in the last round, but ultimately, I think for the last round, I would like to see both focus on or including like a direct, clear address to the topic, as well as identifying a more persuasive argument, while their argument would, supersede the others.
Yeah, and if I could throw this in here, that's kind of why I said, can we reread the rules again? Because I didn't want to give like precise feedback. But that's how I was quick earlier with my feedback, was just on the nature of the judging. We're addressing the topic, the clarity of position, persuasiveness, the presentation of evidence, or identification of the opposing argument. So that's why I didn't want to give too much of a full thought. But going into the last round, if I would like to see a little bit more, um, you know, combination of that in the presentation.
Um, for my critique, I definitely appreciated the incorporation of more sources on Capone's part. I like how he has strengthened his arguments and then started to emphasize fine tuning in his discussion. Um, although he was clear with his message. I think he's clear with his message in saying that the universe is purposeful. He does use scripture still, but he also is incorporating more scientific language in his discussion. I also, I think that his use of his incorporating Kaku Hawking and then Hoyle's arguments are is pretty is was better from his earlier rounds. Um, and as for IssaKween, I like how she is staying focused on how evolution is a good theory to explain how the origins of life. I like how she uses, multiple concepts such as natural selection. She mentions genetics and embryos. Uh, I appreciate how she's discussing how evolution is the most supported framework for describing creation. And then I do appreciate the incorporation of like different disciplines like evolutionary biology. She talks about genetics, she talks about cosmology. I do like her earlier discussion in the first couple of rounds of comparative mythology, and then even discussing some of the earlier church fathers and their understanding that this is not to be taken literal. So I love those parts of each presenter's arguments.
I'm gonna combine rounds 3 and 4. Capone, I really appreciate that you have stepped up the sourcing, and I have found the sourcing to be very interesting, and I'm liking how you're coming from different disciplines from your sourcing. Um, is I really appreciate, like Cosmic said, the different disciplines that you're bringing in, with genetics and the bridge between human and animal, and weaving that in. I feel like you both are addressing the topic clearly, and Issa, I really loved your rebuttal on the Big Bang Theory when Capone opened up that door. Um, Capone, I also liked how you squeezed Darwinism back in there, because I was concerned that it was just kind of be left dangling. And I also appreciate that you mentioned Stephen Hawking's and Einstein and some, very highly thought of scientists. Um, I think that is all for me. Oh,
So,
one thing, I did kind of get lost with Capone when you were doing the DNA thing. That's it.
so just real quickly, this is the final round coming up.
Are we? I think
Yes,
so.
we're going into the
Yeah.
final round.
So
And
this
this is
is
the fifth.
each debate. Yes, that's what I have. The fifth round. And this is each debater's last time to rebuttal.
Yes.
Okay.
And Capone has two rebuttals left, and Issa has one.
Okay.
If everybody's done, yeah, I want to start my round with my rebuttal.
I think that's all. So let me know when you're ready.
Okay. All right, so this is my 3 minutes. I'm starting now. So earlier in the debate, GDN mentioned the Big Bang goes against the laws of physics. And I wanted to clear that out because it doesn't. Um, what the Big Bang does, what the Big Bang goes against really is the Planck time. And I don't have enough time to even talk about what that is, but it's less than a millisecond of a millisecond of a millisecond of time that it took to explode and things to start moving. That's what we don't have the time for. That's the thing that breaks physics. And that's just probably something like Tanya said, we just don't have the information for it yet. But and another thing that is constantly said, that science is always changing. The science isn't really changing. We're just understanding better about the thing that we're studying, right? Um, Hopefully we can get through that in the questions and answers round. Now, the difference between a scientific theory and a scientific law, right? A scientific theory describes why and how something happens. Neither of these things determine if it's true or not in the science world. So the theory of evolution just explains how life changes over time. The law of natural selection tells us the organisms with the traits better suited for an environment. And the the law is telling you what's happening. The scientific theory is telling you why and how it's happening. So I think a lot of times we kind of confuse that with a regular, oh, I have a theory, I have a guess, I have a hunch. That's not what that means in the science world. But I will give you that, because we do have scientific pitfalls out there. We do have things that aren't discovered yet when it comes to science,
One
but
minute.
it never actually changes what we've known. And as far as Darwinism, Darwin talked about natural selection. That's what he talked about. He didn't know about DNA. He didn't know about any of those things. And as far as Darwin, he wasn't even the first person to talk about evolution. And we could talk about that in the questions and answers round. But his grandfather literally was talking about evolution. So trying to push everything under what Darwin knows, that means that you don't know what evolution and how many different sciences are out there that were building and helping with this idea that has turned into a law, and some of them have turned into theories. And I'm done with that. Um, I'm ready for my final round.
Let me
Give
know when
me
you.
1 second. Yeah, give me 1 second, because I have a couple of slides.
Okay.
So let me share my screen and when I'm about to start. Give me 1 second. So okay, I'm gonna start. Um, so I've evolution, if angels have made humans, I still haven't heard the proof of what GDN is talking about. He hasn't spoken about any of the fundamental things that holds up his argument. He hasn't talked about the flood geology that he's going to stand on. He hasn't talked about the chromosomal issues that deals with the Adam and Eve story. He hasn't talked about, well, he tries to talk about the Big Bang, but in all reality, the book says what it says, and it's never speaking about all of these other places, like I said in my introduction, that the religious community like to place onto science. Nowhere have you heard that the firmament consists of the edges of the earth, the universe. Like, never have you heard that before. But he could go off with that. Um, so just to come back down to earth, right? And to understand the true history of what this life is doing, y'all need to stop looking in the stars. Y'all need to start looking at the earth, because the earth is telling us all of these stories. And evolution didn't give us halos, it gave us hands. It didn't give us like wings, or it gifted us lungs, right? And each hominin species gave us something sacred, right? The Australopithecus gave us upright walking. Homo habilis gave us tools. Homo erectus gave us migration and fire. Homo habiligensis gave us gave us the Neanderthals, the Denisovans, and us, because we literally evolved from this Heidelbergensis, right? During the Pleistocene, about 700,000 years ago, Homo heidelbergensis emerged out of Africa and went into Europe, right? And here is migration patterns for this, right? So we have Homo sapiens, we have Homo erectus, and we have Homo neanderthal. Sorry, that's the wrong one. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I don't have time. So anyway, Homo. I'm gonna do that in the questions and answers round. Homo heidelbergensis left Africa and it evolved into these other species that we see, right? In Europe, they became the Neanderthals, large brains, powerful, ice age, literally made for the cold, as well as the Denisovans. Um, and in Africa, like I said, Heidelbergensis evolved into the Homo sapiens. The most we were which was us. We were the most adaptable, symbolic, and mobile of all of these species. Right here in this map that I show you is this right here is the hominid, the Homo species. This is us. These Homo sapiens at the end where you see present, Florensis, Naledi, Neanderthalers, Heidelbergensis, all of these hominid species, and we're still discovering some. Every like we're still discovering some. We just found some in the year 2007. All of these people were walking around the same time, right? Um, the bloodlines of the first people, such as the Khoisan, the people of southern Africa, carry the oldest maternal DNA. The Imbo people of Cameroon hold the oldest patrilineal Y DNA, the A00. These are not primitive tribes; they are the first families of humanity, literally. The first to leave Africa around 70,000 years ago, a group of Homo sapiens carrying the maternal haplogroup L3 and the Y haplogroup CT out of um, out of Africa. Um, L3 gave us the rise to M and N and astral mothers of all non-Africans, and CT split into almost every major Y lineage outside of Africa. In Europe and the West and West Asia, Homo sapiens met Neanderthals and absorbed 2.4% of their DNA. Genes related to skin, hair, immunity, and some neurological traits. In
Two
Central and
minutes.
Southeast Asia, we encountered Denisovans. Okay, we're gonna go speed through this. So we migrated through the Bering Strait. We have a southern route through Australia, as you can see in the slide, coming out and inhabiting these islands. But let's talk about some mythical memories that might be within our ancient memories. So in Siberian Evenki and Ket lore, there were tales of stone people or forest giants who hid from the fire, lived in caves, and kept their distance. Some of these stories center near the Denisova caves, where the Denisovans were found. In Aboriginal Australia, the Dreamtime creation stories, there are stories of hairy people or ancestral beings that shaped the land and vanished beneath it. Some legends describe them as pre-humans separated from current tribes. In Norse mythology, the Jotnar frost giants lived in the caves and mountains, often clashing with the gods. And in Celtic tradition, the Fomorians were a primal British race that predated humans, deformed, ancient, and powerful. In Hindu epics, I'm sorry, I can't say that. The Rakshasas and the Asuras are described as forest-dwelling, strong, non-human beings and varied morality. The wild man archetype, worldwide archetype, hairy, nonverbal, forest dwelling humanoids with great strength but low intelligence. Enkidu and Sumerian, Orang Pandak in Sumatra, Almaz in Central Asia, the Yeti, the Bigfoot, little people legends of small elusive beings with advanced skills, the Ibu Gogo from Flores
Time.
Island in Indonesia. Can I have just 1 more minute, please?
Capone. Capone. GD Capone. Earth to GD
Yeah.
Capone.
I'm here.
She's gonna get 1 minute. Are you cool?
Yeah, she can take a minute.
Okay.
Okay, in Ibu Gogo, Flores Island, Indonesia, Homo florensis fossils was found nearby. These are literally called the hobbits of the Homo species. Leprechauns in Ireland and duendes in Latin America all talks about these little people where Homo florensis have been found. So we see an echo of this happening within in the mythical stories as well as the science records, right? Also, just another thing when it comes to our human evolution, because like I keep saying, a lot of our Homo sapien, our evolution began in our brains. And as you can see here, we could go over again in the question and answers round. We also, our tool use has started here, right? So Australopithecus started making started with the tools, Homo
Time.
habilis, Homo erectus, and I'm done. I'm coming back.
GD Capone. GD Capone.
Yeah, I'm ready. I guess I'll use the 3 minutes to rebut. I've been rebutting her all this through my rounds already. I've been debunking the whole Big Bang theory and
Do we
showing you
start
that
now? Do we start the 3 minutes now for the
um
rebuttal?
yeah, yes, please. Yes, I've been debunking the whole Big Bang theory through my through my um through my rounds and showing how the universe is intelligently designed from the fine tuning of the universe to create to for it to be life stable on Earth specifically, right? And I was showing that the Bible makes the claim before scientists discovered these things, before they discovered these fundamental principles, before they discovered these constants. The Bible was making the claim about creation before Slakia. The Bible the Bible that the God that the Bible reference was making these claims before these scientists came up with these theories and laws and everything. So, like I'm saying, I don't get what she's saying. But one thing I would say, one thing earlier, she said something about the mitochondria Eve. That is where they get the name Eve from. They are referencing the ancestral Eve, right, from the Bible, because these people were Christians. That's one thing the sister won't tell you. Um, Genesis. Let me give me 1 second. Let me go to this. Let's go to the scripture. Right. She brought up the mitochondria. Oh, come on, don't do that. Let's go to this real quick. Genesis. What is it? Is it? It's 3. Genesis 3. Hold on, give me 1 second. Phone freezing. Genesis 3. Go down right here. Right here. Okay, it says Genesis 3:20. It says, and Adam called his wife Eve because she was the mother of all living.
46
Like
seconds.
she went into the mitochondrial the mitochondrial DNA that everyone has, and that and we all have an X chromosome. That's because Eve is the mother of all living, and the Bible is making that claim already before scientists discovered DNA. So what is you talking about, right? Yeah, my phone was just freezing. Let me go back to my slide and get back into your boy Darwin right here. Wait, hold on. Is the time up, sister? Because I'm gonna go right
5 seconds.
into
4 seconds. 3, 2, 1.
okay,
Done.
okay. So you can start my round. You ready?
There we go.
Okay, so like I quoted Heber Spencer earlier. He came up with the term survival of the fittest. Him and Charles Darwin are contemporaries, along with what's the other guy name? Alfred. Oh man, but puzzled by his name right now. I got his name right here somewhere. Alfred Russel Wallace, right? So they are all contemporaries, and Darwin was synchronizing all of their information together. Not only that, he didn't, like the sister said, he did not come up with evolution. His grandfather, right? How you say his name? Aramis Darwin. He was infatuated with evolution so much that he wrote a book called Zoonomia, which is his basis of evolution. Basically, it's the early thought of evolution, and this is poetry, right? So Darwin grew up in this evolution type world. Not only that, so that's his grand. So like, let me go back to his grandfather. So his grandfather, he wrote this book, the poetry. Darwin wrote about it as well. He wrote about how his grandfather inspired him, how he used to read. He used to read his books all the time, and everything. His grandfather is responsible for majority of the thinking in the 1700s. Majority of the let's say philosophy, right? He was also a freak part of the Free Thinkers Club and of the Hellfire Club. Not only that, so now when Charles Darwin come on the scene, he's influenced by who? John Blueback, who came up with the whole thing of race and the skulls and these different things, saying that the European was the most beautiful. He was using pseudoscience to prove the existence of mankind, the different races of mankind. I got a picture of that, but I don't. I wanna continue on. Let's go to let's go to here, right? This is Psalms 19, Psalms 19, 1 through 3. And it says, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. So it's saying that the heavens that God created, when you look up, like I told you in Romans, he was telling you, be scientists, observe life to understand, you see that it's the design, right? So let's see the beautiful design that God made. Look at these, the nebula star system clusters, right? And also what? The pillars of creation. Okay, right here as well. Why is my phone like that? It's crazy. The pillars of creation. It's another scripture in the Bible. I think it's Psalms 83. It talks about how it's pillars in heaven. This is 3,000 years, almost more than 3,000 years before scientists even come up with this. So I'm done with that. Let's go on to this. The Ilias equation, right? Or the Ilias identity, right? This is the argument for God in mathematics. So what this is, this shows different concepts of mathematics in one equation, which turns to God. So I'm not going to read all of this. I'm just going to show you. Let me read the first one. It says 5 fundamental consonants, unrelated branches of the math fit to 12 character equation. It says, what does it lead to? It says beauty brings design, and design brings a designer, right? Let's go to the analysis. It says the analysis, geometry, pi, algebra, 1 and 0 in the imaginary number co-inhabit a single statement, right? And it says such unity must be intended. This equation is telling you that along with the scientists, along with Moses in Genesis 1 and 1, it's telling you that something created everything. Moses just called it God. And he knew this before scientists, before Elia came up with this equation, before everything. I'm telling you, everybody is trying to catch up with the Bible, with God. They're trying to study God. They're trying to study his creation. She wanted to talk about the early hominids. It's only a few of those that are actual humans. The
2
rest of them
minutes.
are apes. The rest of them are apes. I showed you. Hold on, let me go back to it. 2 minutes. I showed you. The rest of these are apes. It's only the Homo erectus, the Homo hydroponus, and the Homo I said the name wrong. There's only like four of them that are humans. The rest of them are apes, and I showed you that these was beast kind, because why? The Bible called them beasts after his kind, right? And early on, and you can fact check this. Ape was considered a beast because it was uncivilized, right? It didn't have any intelligence, right? So oh my God. So right here, so I talked about the beauty and the design. The beauty equals design. And we can look up and see the beautiful design that the creator made. It says the identity look discovered and not invented, right? Wait, yeah. And it says the identity look discovered and not invented. Timeless mind or God grounds the existence of the timeless truth. And it says the timeless mind or God grounds the timeless truth. That's the same thing. I don't know why that's like that. Okay. So I'm gonna end right here. So this says, I'll just read some of this real quick. It says, let them know how much it says, well, it's like it says, it was talking about the heavens, the stars, and everything. I'm not gonna read it all. It says, with whose beauty, if they being delighted, took them to be gods. Talking about the stars and everything. Talking about how man does that. He say, let them know how much better the Lord of them is. For the first
Time.
author of beauty created them. Let me get an extra minute. It says, for the first author of beauty created them. But if they were astonished, talking about these men, these scientists, if they was astonished at the power and virtue of nature, right? And it says, let them understand by nature, how mightier he is that made them. For by the greatness by greatness and beauty of the creature, proportionably, the maker of them is seen. And we know this, we can see this, the greatness of you when you have children. We can see the resemblance of of you and your children. This is what I've been saying all day. The DNA is designed. The heavens are designed, right? So look what the rest of this says. It says, but yet, if they are less to be blamed for their peradventure error, seeking the Most High and desirous to find Him, right? So you find nature, you're trying to find God. It says, for being conversant in His words, they search Him diligently and believe their sight, because the things are beautiful to be seen, because God created them to be beautiful. And that's what the
Time.
Elio equation was just doing. I'm going to end it right here. A fool in his heart says there is no God. And that's what evolution says. Yeah.
And that brings us to our 5th round, the end of our 5th round.
Great job, you guys. Are we just
Absolutely.
giving feedback on the 5th round and then scoring?
Yes. When and then point from the audience.
So I can start really quick with the 5th round. So I'll start with IssaKween. I think you had an excellent rebuttal. Your direct responses effectively challenged Capone's points on Darwin. You clearly identified very specific weaknesses in Capone's argument and holes in his argument, and provided some thoughtful counterpoints. In your actual round, I thought you had a pretty memorable quote, "Stop looking
Hold
at the
on,
star."
Tanya, give me a minute. So the first round you give I'm sorry, give me a minute.
Yeah, that's how I was
So
gonna ask the structure.
directly
Are we,
addressing the topic. Indirectly addressing the topic. You
Oh,
give
I
it
I
thought we
think
were
that
to.
she was just
okay.
giving her spiel.
I
I
thought
think at
that
the
I
end
had
she was
asked.
just
Oh,
gonna
you
give
still the
her.
feedback? Okay, go ahead. My bad.
Yeah, I thought we were doing feedback and then scoring. That's what I had asked before.
Okay.
David.
I didn't hear you, my bad.
So really quick, got back to my notes. I think the quote, "Stop looking at the stars and look at the earth," was pretty memorable. It really reinforced your argument. I think you did a great job connecting the contributions of the different Homo species to the broader story of humanity. Capone, I really liked this round. I think you did a really good job. You had strong rebuttal linking the mitochondrial Eve to the biblical Eve, references Genesis 3:20, and highlighting the idea of Eve as the mother of all living before scientific discoveries. Your presentation was engaging. I do like the range of your passion, especially when you were referencing things like the pillar of creation, Euler's identity, and you still integrated, you didn't, move too far from integration of biblical arguments. You addressed the topic in this round. I think you definitely addressed the topic directly and structured your argument more clearly. So do we do scoring, or is everybody
Yeah,
giving their opinion on this round?
Yeah,
Okay.
just
yeah,
get it over with. You
that's
can
what I
do
was gonna
your
say.
score.
This so I have a proper understanding. So are we giving feedback now on based on what we're
Yeah, I thought
about
we
Ye-
to
were giving
say in the
feedback on
scoring?
round 5 and then scoring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I'll wait for scoring.
Anybody else has feedback?
No, I'd rather just score. I'm kind of tired, y'all.
Okay. So who's gonna score first?
I mean, y'all know I'm a talkative person. I can score first,
Okay,
if
go
that's
ahead,
okay with the
Jabril.
other judges. All right.
So
So,
directly addressing the topic, you give it to who?
so in round one, directly addressing the topic, let me flip through my notes, and I also screenshotted some things on, my wonderful 6 computers. Let me go to my notes. So addressing the topic, I gave GD Capone a 5, and I actually gave Issa an 8. The reason why, because she was addressing thought versus reality, when GD Capone was only addressing the language, and I didn't see how he was trying to tie the language into the particular topic because the evidence that he was showing. Let me go to my computer. In round
You
one,
give GD
he said,
what? I didn't hear you.
"Not." I gave GD Capone a 5
Okay.
because when he brought out creationism, often rooted in religious beliefs, and poses that a divine supernatural force created the universe and all living things, typically within a specific time frame.
Optimize your engagement pipeline by liking, subscribing, and activating notification channels. Watch our content deliver top-tier insight and leave actionable feedback in the comments.